This video should help you with your week 13 assignments. The assignments Danny's given me are a little bit hard to take and put into Blackboard format, but I'm doing the best I can. You'll see on your Monday night assignment, you won't see this until Wednesday. On the Monday night assignment, you're going to have this boiler print valve identification. So on your big boiler print, and I should have a picture of that. On this print right here, what you're going to be doing is figuring out which drain valves you need to close. This is as if you were standing at the trainer, you were getting ready to fire it up, so you want to close all the drain valves. So what you're going to do here, it says close all drain valves. This is a matching question. Oh no, I'm sorry. This is multiple answer. It says condensate storage tank drain valve. Well, there's 28 valves, and what you have to do is figure out which one of those it is. So if you were to come back to your big drawing here, and you zoom in and you find the condensate storage tank, and sure enough, there is the condensate storage tank drain valve. It is V5. You go back to the question and you click on V5, save the answer, move to the next one. The next question is boiler drain valve. Now we've got to go back to the drawing, find the boiler, and this looks like the boiler drain valve. It drains into the blowdown separator because nothing that you put down a city drain can be above 140 degrees. And you'll see that's why you have a water supply that comes across here to quench that hot boiler water. But this valve here indeed is the boiler drain valve. And of course V10, you'll go back to the question, and for boiler drain valve you'll pick V10. Make sure it clicks on save there. Now you're going to the hot water storage drain valve, and I'm going to expand this a little bit. Here's the hot water storage tank, and there is a valve number 20 that looks like it goes all the way down here and across to the drain. So I'm going to say that the hot water storage drain valve must be valve number 20. Now you're going to go through, there's several drain valves, 7 of them. You're going to identify all those. Now every question has 28 possible answers, and you're going to pick everything once, because you've got supply cold water valves, you've got steam valves, you've got condensate valves, and you've got hot water system valves. When you look at the hot water system valves, I believe no. Okay, here's what I was looking for. For the feed water pump isolation valves, there's actually 2. So it says feed water pump isolation valve, select 2 valves. You actually have to give 2 answers here instead of 1. And go back to the print. Here is the feed water pump. If you were going to do service on the feed water pump, you would close valve 7 and valve 6. That would isolate that pump. So on this question where it says feed water isolation valves, you actually have to pick 2 instead of 1. Anytime you see that, you definitely have to pick 2. I know there's more than one of those. All right, so once you select all the valves, there's 5 different matching questions. Each valve is worth 4 points. There's actually 25 questions total, and that will be your total for the week. Correct, that will be your total for Monday night. All right, for your Wednesday night assignment, you're going to see this handwritten boiler drawing. When you click on this, it's going to give you a matching. And here is a hand-drawn boiler sketch. And it's got 29 different items that you're going to need to identify. And really, this is the kind of thing where you would have to go out in the lab and look at a actual boiler and look at all these controls and then identify them, because we're not able to do that. It's kind of hard for me to show you how you would know which one of these is the operating control, the high limit, the modulating control. Kind of looks like a low water cutoff. That's actually what it is. You know, there's certain things on here that really need some description. So I want to do that here in this video. Here is a drawing that I started to label a few things on to hopefully help out with what you've got to do. But when you look at number 1, typically on the Scotch Marine type Cleaver Brooks fire tube boilers, you would see these 3 controls lined up. I don't know that they would always be in this order, but this is the order that Danny gave them in. The operating control is number 1. The high limit control, high temperature limit control is number 2. And the modulating control is number 3. The operating control would be the on-off temperatures that the boiler would normally cycle at. The high limit is typically about 20 degrees higher than the operating control. If for some reason the operating control failed, the high limit control would take it off. And it is required on all boilers that it has 2 2 controls, a operating control and a safety control. And here number 3 is a modulating control, which controls this thing right here, which is the modulating actuator, which would be tied to a damper for air, and it would also be tied to a modulating gas valve, which is number 14 right here. That's how you would control the ratio of air to fuel going into the burner. The other thing I noted here is this is the actual low water cutoff. Here is a dual gauge, a pressure and temperature gauge. Here is the hot water coming out going to the system. This up here is the expansion tank. That's how you keep from overpressurizing the system as the water heats and cools and the water expands. You have an air cushion here, or more typical nowadays is to have an air bladder. I think you guys learned a little bit about that last year. Right up here, this is the gas line coming down. Oh, excuse me. I got to relabel that. That's the vent line. And the one thing I wanted to say about the vent line, this is not code anymore. Here you've got a vent coming off of the main gas regulator, a vent coming off of the low gas pressure switch. The vent valve on a boiler over 5 million BTU, you have to have 2 safety valves and 1 normally open vent valve. That vent valve is open when the other 2 shut to make sure that no gas can build up between these 2. If this valve here was to fail, the number 1 safety valve would fail. Pressure would not make it to the number 2 valve. It would actually go up the vent. But when you look at this being all common venting, That by code is not allowed anymore. This vent off the main gas regulator has to be separated from this vent. If this vent line got plugged here, you could actually get pressure pushing back, which causes the main gas regulator to overpressurize. Not a good idea. Here is the main gas shutoff valve, and it kind of looks like a plug. That's what they call it, a plug valve. That is the main gas shutoff plug valve. Here's the pilot gas line coming down. This is the regulator for the pilot gas solenoid valve going up here to the pilot burner. Here's the ignition transformer feeding to the pilot gas burner. This gauge right here, Danny had it listed as something that it really wasn't. This is actually the manifold gas pressure. And you see how there's a T that reads manifold gas pressure and then goes back here to this switch number 15 is actually the high gas pressure switch. Well, you cannot have gas bypassing this line going right into the manifold. So really what you'll see is that on this gas train, this nipple is welded to the gas train, but it's never been drilled, and there's no way from pressure in the main gas line here to make it to that high gas pressure switch. The pressure for that high gas pressure switch actually comes from the manifold back down here. In a lot of cases, the high gas pressure switch number 15 is actually mounted right up here with the manifold pressure gauge. I think that's about enough explanation on this to probably give away all the answers, but 29 matching questions. It looks like this. So pilot gas shutoff valve. Here is the pilot gas shutoff valve here. So I would pick number 24 for that. Oops. And then the boiler, obviously number 27 is the boiler. So you would pick number 27 for that. And then expansion tank, 25. Keep on going. If you have any problems, any questions, send me an email or text me, let me know. Hopefully, you know, what Danny wants you to do is to recognize all these things on a boiler. I know that we haven't shown you enough about boilers to really be proficient and be able to do all this, but we're going to do the best we can.